The US government just did something almost unthinkable in a free market economy. It forced a private company to sell itself. President Trump has signed an executive order mandating that TikTok's US operations be sold to American investors, citing national security concerns. But this isn't just about an app with dance challenges and lip-sync videos. This is about control, power, and the global fight over data and influence. So here's the question. Is this a justified move to protect American interests? Or is it a thinly veiled power grab disguised as patriotism? In this video, we're diving into the heart of the TikTok takeover. We'll break down what's in the executive order, what parts of TikTok are really being sold, and who stands to gain the most. Is it about stopping surveillance or seizing influence? But we're not stopping there. We'll examine what this means for China's tech ambitions, US credibility, and the broader global tech landscape. We'll also unpack whether this sets a dangerous precedent. Can governments now force companies into deals just because they don't like where the owner is from? Because this isn't just about TikTok. This is a flashpoint in the digital Cold War, a high-stakes battle where the weapons are apps, algorithms, and executive orders. And whether you think Trump is defending America or undermining capitalism, one thing is clear. The future of tech is no longer being written in code. It's being written in politics. So let's break this down, piece by piece. Let's get to the core of the controversy. What exactly does President Trump's executive order say? And what power does it actually hold? The order, signed under the authority of the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, IEEPA, declares that TikTok, owned by Chinese tech giant ByteDance, poses a national security threat due to the potential for user data to be accessed by the Chinese Communist Party. That's the official reasoning. But this order goes far beyond data concerns. It doesn't just restrict how TikTok operates or impose tighter regulations. It does something almost unheard of in modern US business policy. It forces a sale. ByteDance must divest TikTok's US operations entirely or face a complete ban in the US market. That's not regulation. That's economic coercion, and it's raising alarms globally. The timeline is strict. The penalties are severe. And yet the terms, completely vague. The order doesn't clarify what's actually being sold. Is it the algorithm, the user base, the data infrastructure, or just the brand and front-end operations? That confusion has made the sale even messier. Tech giants like Oracle, Microsoft, and Walmart have been mentioned as potential buyers, but none of them know exactly what they'd be buying. Imagine trying to buy a company without knowing if you're getting its brain or just the face. Supporters of the order say it's long overdue. In their view, TikTok is more than just a social app. It's a Trojan horse capable of surveillance, manipulation, and algorithmic control over millions of Americans. Critics argue it's blatant government overreach, a dangerous precedent. If this sale is forced through, what stops future administrations from targeting any foreign company they don't like? Even more concerning is the global precedent. If the US can strong-arm foreign tech companies, what's to stop China or Russia from doing the same? In essence, this executive order didn't just disrupt a tech company, it shook the very foundation of global capitalism and cross-border business. Trump didn't just issue a command, he lit the fuse on one of the most controversial and complex deals in modern tech history. Let's pull back the curtain on the TikTok sale. What's actually being sold here? On the surface, it sounds simple. ByteDance sells TikTok's US operations to American investors, and the app gets to keep running in the United States. But under the hood, this deal is anything but simple. Let's start with the most valuable asset, the algorithm. TikTok's For You page isn't just another feed. It's powered by one of the most addictive, sophisticated recommendation engines ever built. This algorithm isn't just code, it's AI trained on billions of behavioral patterns, optimized to predict human desire almost perfectly. It's why people open TikTok and stay stuck for hours. So the million-dollar question is, does the US buyer get the algorithm? Answer, probably not. China has passed new export laws that classify TikTok's algorithm as sensitive AI technology, effectively blocking it from being sold abroad. So, what a US buyer might get is the app interface. but not the brain that makes it tick. Now let's talk about data. TikTok holds the personal data of over 150 million US users. Their interests, locations, device IDs, interactions, even facial recognition markers. That's a data goldmine. But where is it stored? Who actually controls it? If the servers are still in China, or if engineers in Beijing still maintain control over access, then what exactly is the US buying? And then there's the code base, the actual source code that keeps TikTok running. If US investors acquire only the branding and front end, but the back-end updates still rely on Chinese developers, then operational control remains overseas. Imagine buying a car that only runs if someone else controls the engine. Finally, the murkiest question of all, who controls the content? If ByteDance retains control over what content is boosted, censored, or buried, then TikTok US becomes an illusion of independence. A puppet show with strings still tied to Beijing. So what's really being sold here? Possibly a logo, maybe a user interface, perhaps a license to operate in name only, but without the algorithm, the data autonomy, or the development rights. This isn't a business deal. It's a franchise contract disguised as national security policy. And if American investors think they're buying power, they may be buying nothing but a front. China's reaction to the TikTok executive order has been predictably sharp, but also deeply strategic. From Beijing's perspective, this isn't just a business dispute. It's an attack. A sovereign nation is watching one of its most successful tech exports being forcibly carved up by a foreign government. And China is not taking it lightly. Shortly after the executive order was signed, Chinese officials condemned the move as political manipulation under the guise of national security. Their message was clear. If the US can force a sale today, tomorrow it could target any Chinese company. To push back, China revised its export control rules, specifically restricting the sale of advanced AI technologies like TikTok's recommendation algorithm. That move wasn't just regulatory, it was retaliatory. By preventing ByteDance from handing over TikTok's core technology, China essentially crippled the sale. They sent a message to Washington. You can't just take what you want. Behind the scenes, Chinese state media began calling the move digital piracy and economic bullying. These aren't just propaganda lines. They're aimed at swaying emerging economies watching how the US treats foreign tech players. Then came the veiled threats. While Beijing hasn't openly retaliated against US tech giants like Apple or Qualcomm, experts believe they're on thin ice. One regulatory shift and they could face audits, product restrictions, or even nationwide bans. There's also the reputational damage to consider. China is positioning itself as the victim of Western hypocrisy, calling out how the US demands openness from Chinese markets, yet aggressively blocks Chinese firms from competing in the West. That narrative plays well in countries skeptical of American double standards. And as China expands its influence through initiatives like the Belt and Road, controlling the global narrative becomes just as important as building the next AI. Beijing understands that if it loses TikTok, it can still win the argument, and that may be just as valuable. In fact, some speculate China is intentionally letting TikTok take the hit to frame the US as untrustworthy, especially to countries debating where to build their 5G networks or place their next semiconductor investment. This isn't just tech versus tech, it's trust versus control, and in that war, every banned app becomes another diplomatic bullet. The forced sale of TikTok isn't just a US-China standoff. It's a shockwave that's already rippling through the global tech landscape. At its core, this is about tech sovereignty, who controls what, where, and for how long. And if the United States, the world's flagship free market democracy, can force a private company from another country to sell, what's stopping others from doing the same? Governments everywhere are watching. In Europe, lawmakers are already debating tighter digital sovereignty laws, inspired not just by data privacy concerns, but now by national security fears. India, which has banned over 200 Chinese apps, is watching closely to see if the US model gives it more leverage to demand tech localization. Even allies like Australia and Canada are beginning to rethink the risks of foreign-owned platforms. And tech giants? They're panicking behind closed doors. Silicon Valley CEOs are waking up to the fact that their platforms could be next, depending on the political mood of the host country. If the internet is no longer neutral ground but a geopolitical battlefield, then every app becomes a potential pawn. The result? A slow but steady fragmentation of the internet. We're seeing the rise of what analysts call the splinter net, a world where there's no single global internet, but regional versions shaped by ideology, control, and national interests. China already has its own firewall. Russia has built a semi-autonomous internet system. Now the US is moving in that direction, not through censorship, but through corporate pressure and forced divestitures. It's not just authoritarian states rewriting the internet, it's democracies too. And the consequences could be massive. Imagine if every major app had to split into regional branches, with local investors, local servers, local rules and government oversight. Innovation slows, global collaboration fades. The next Facebook or Instagram might never even get a chance to scale internationally. This TikTok episode is a signal to every startup, every investor, every government. Data is power, and power is political. So forget the idea of just an app. In the 2020s, tech platforms aren't neutral tools. They're digital assets of national interest. And here's the irony. The internet was supposed to connect the world, break down walls, democratize access. But now, it's being carved up like digital real estate, guarded not by innovation, but by national interest and suspicion. This could also shift how tech companies raise funding. Investors may think twice before backing cross-border ventures if there's a risk of forced government intervention. Smaller platforms may start out national by default. Fearing global expansion will trigger political retaliation. In the long run, the cost of doing business online could skyrocket. Compliance teams, geopolitical analysts, and legal departments might become more important than engineers or marketers. So, what does the TikTok deal really mean for global tech? It means the rules just changed, and the world's biggest companies are now operating under a cloud of uncertainty that no algorithm can fix. It means we're entering an age where the fight for market share is also a fight for national identity. And it means tech, the one industry that once symbolized openness and borderless innovation, is now being pulled into the oldest game of all, power politics. This isn't just the future of apps, it's the future of the internet itself. Here's a question few are asking. What if the TikTok deal isn't real? Not in the legal sense, but in the strategic sense. What if the entire executive order, the forced sale, the investor scramble was all a performance? Let's look at the facts. The sale is murky. The buyers don't know what they're getting. The algorithm, the core asset, is off the table. ByteDance may still maintain operational control. And China's export bans have rendered any true technology transfer nearly impossible. So what's actually changing? Some analysts believe this is a political theater, a way for the Trump administration to score points in a high-stakes election cycle by looking tough on China. A symbolic move, not a substantive one. The kind of headline-grabbing action that doesn't need to succeed. It just needs to look like it did. Think about it. If US investors end up owning TikTok in name, but the back end remains tied to ByteDance, Trump still gets to claim victory. China avoids direct confrontation, and the public gets the illusion of security. Meanwhile, TikTok continues operating. Nothing major changes. And yet, the political scoreboard shows a big win for nationalism and digital sovereignty. It wouldn't be the first time politics use business as a stage, and that's what makes the fake deal theory so compelling. Because in this version of events, everyone wins, on paper, except of course the truth. And in this atmosphere of distraction and controlled narrative, accountability vanishes. Citizens are told they're being protected, while the core issues, data transparency, algorithmic accountability, tech ethics, remain unresolved. If this was just about data privacy, Real legislative action could have been taken years ago. If this was about competition, antitrust mechanisms were already available. But this is something else. It's political pageantry wrapped in cybersecurity rhetoric, and it's becoming the new playbook. So here we are, a viral app turned political battlefield, a tech sale wrapped in mystery, and two global superpowers locked in a data war neither side fully understands. The forced TikTok sale isn't just a business headline, it's a warning shot. It tells us that the age of digital innocence is over, that algorithms now hold geopolitical weight, and that in the 21st century, the new battlegrounds aren't borders, they're screens. Whether this deal actually protects national security or simply props up political posturing, it doesn't change the fact that you, the user, are the product. And now, you're the pawn, too. So what happens next? Will TikTok become America's newest propaganda platform? Will China retaliate further? Or will this all quietly fizzle out while the next conflict brews? That's up to time. And you. If this video made you think twice about what's really going on behind the headlines, smash that like button. Share this with someone who still thinks TikTok is just a dance app. And subscribe for more deep dives into the power games shaping our digital lives. This isn't just the news, this is the fight for the future of the internet.